Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Talkin Kop. We're here to do a little transfer rumor roundup for the Premier League. We're going to try to do as little to no Liverpool chat as we possibly can tonight. So I'm joined by two people who despise talking about Liverpool with me, and Kev O'Sullivan and Chris Brack. It's good to see both of you. This last time I saw you guys, I was a long, long way from home. Chris, how are you?
All right. Last time I saw you, we weren't very sober either.
Yeah, well. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that.
Three wise monkeys, as we've just been described. I think that's a nice thing we've been called in the chat.
Exactly. Thanks, Pete. How are you tonight, Kev?
Good, mate. Last time I saw you, you still hadn't burnt your hair.
Yeah.
I think that came a couple of hours later that night. But it looked like when I left, you guys were well set in for the duration that Monday afternoon.
Yeah,
Definitely
last night. Yeah, we were still at the Red Line when you left to go.
No, I was at Pogues. I went back to Pogues. Yeah,
I
went back to Pogues, but me and Gizmo left from Pogues. But yeah, no, I'll tell you, when I was leaving, I was like, I really wish I was going home tomorrow. I just had that feeling that night was going to take off.
Yeah, we had a good fun time there. We had a good fun time, and it's a lot easier coordinating things when there's only 4 or 5 of you as opposed to when there's 14 or 15, 16 people going around. It gets to be all a bit mad. Yes, Scouser Pete, I did slightly set my hair on fire at the Pogue Mahones in Liverpool, so there's just a tiny little bit here that's slightly shorter than on the other side. So it's all well and good, but we're here to talk some transfer rumors, and I'm surprised, actually, doing a little bit of homework before the show, that there's, pages and pages worth of transfer rumors when you get onto the internet and start looking and seeing. But I think the best place to start is with the things that we know are not rumors, the absolute guaranteed ins. It's just a couple of loans that have been renewed in Timo Werner for Tottenham. He's going to be at Tottenham again next season. And then a couple of loan moves that had, I believe, obligations on them to buy. So Bournemouth confirmed the permanent transfers of Luis Sinisterra and Unal Ender, whatever it is. And Igor is permanently moved to Brentford into the back line there. So those are the ones we know. That list will, of course, build as we go on and on and on throughout the season. But in terms of rumors, I got some homework here. I know, Kev, you did a little bit of homework, and Chris, slightly less so much, slightly less homework done.
So that you got me instant reactions because I went, oh yeah, I forgot to look. You see something on social media that flashed up that excites you, but like nothing flashed up. So I thought, oh well, that'll tell me, and I'll just tell you what I think.
If you're here in the chat, any of the rumors you hear, as we're going to try to go through kind of team by team as we do this, because that seems to be the easiest way of dealing with these rumors. If you have any names that you've heard in there, or you want to just create some false internet rumors, just lash them into the chat and we'll try to get into them as well too. Hit the like button, obviously, if you are here and watching and enjoying the show. But Kev, before Chris showed up, we decided that we're going to kind of go through the table and how it finished last season is the easiest way of dealing with this. So at the top of the table, we got Man City, and I didn't see any rumors for any incomings for Man City. I don't know about you, but there's they could have a couple of big outgoings.
Thing is with Man City, last summer, nobody expected them to do much. And then they turned around and signed 4 players for about £200 million. I mean, nearly half of that in Gavardio, which they flagged. But I don't think anyone really saw Mateo Kovacic going there. Jeremy Doku kind of came out of nowhere and was just done. Mateus Nunes, we were heavily linked with, apparently, and then suddenly he rocks up at Man City. So
don't they want rid of him now?
This is the thing. They did this before, didn't they, with players where you get them in for a year, they learn how Guardiola plays and what have you, and then sometimes they just kick on the second season. You saw with Grealish in his first year when he came from Villa, he was pretty poor. Second season really good, and tailed off a bit this year. So I don't know what Man City do. There's more things with Man City linked players going out. I mean, the usual suspect is Bernardo Silva being linked with a move away every year, but this year could be the one. Who knows? But the surprise one is Ederson getting linked with a move to Saudi Arabia. And you can see it from Edison's point of view. I mean, at the end of the day, he's literally won everything that's possible to win at Man City. and maybe he just at this stage of his career, why not take a move to Saudi? It's not like the money that he'll be offered isn't going to be astronomical. It will be, and Ortega did all right. So, and the thing is with keepers, you could see a situation where Thibaut Courtois might leave Real Madrid. Your man at Atletico, Oblak, is earmarked to be leaving Atletico this summer as well. So it's definitely a wait and see what happens, because I think there's going to be incomings and outgoings of City.
I just think if Edison wants to leave, like you said, he could go Saudi and he'd be fine. But you just expect, if he became available on the market, the likes of the Real Madrids of the world would actually create the money to get him. Because keeps of his standard don't come around very often. There's quite a few big super clubs, I would think, that'll go, I'll rechange my transfer policy to get him. Whether he wants that, that's the question.
But this is it. It's convincing the player. Real Madrid wouldn't have a problem convincing the player. You have to look at what Real Madrid are looking to do this summer. Kylian Mbappe transfer is not free. That whenever you're paying a signing on bonus with the new UEFA rules, that comes straight off the top line. It's not like you can stagger that over the length of a contract. As far as I know, signing bonuses come straight off in year one. So that's going to be huge. They also want to sign Alphonso Davies, and they're looking at Yoro. Apparently, he's been told to wait. Madrid have asked him to wait for them, which he will. So, and you've got Endrick coming in from Brazil. An absolute wonder kid who's definitely going to be a superstar. So Madrid are splashing big cash yet again. So
they'll sell a training ground again and just get the money from that. They always find
a loophole. It's one thing I'll give. It's about the only thing I'd actually give La Liga credit for. They're probably the only league in Europe that really puts has developed into this thing where they put the kibosh on a lot of nonsense coming out of clubs. So much so now that apparently even Gerard Piqué is under investigation now by the Spanish authorities for a deal to take the Spanish Super Cup to Saudi Arabia. So they're not afraid to go after people when others put pressure on. So Spain is a bit of a different animal at the minute. It's not like Spain of old.
I also think they've probably got a few big assets they can sell to sort of balance.
They do. And that's where I think you could see a lot of Premier League clubs, including ourselves, taking a look at Madrid and saying, yeah, there's X player there, there's Y player there that we could take a look at.
If they want to give us Valverde, I'll be happy. We can just stop the transfer window there.
No Liverpool chat. No Liverpool chat. Under very strict instructions. Kevin Ball says Bernardo Silva has a 50 million release clause this summer, so I can see him heading to PSG or Barcelona. The other names that I was seeing there linked with departures from Man City was Jack Grealish linked to Bayern. I know there's also some muted talk about maybe a return to Aston Villa, and also potentially Kevin De Bruyne heading either to America or to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. So, yeah, I don't think anybody's under any assumptions that Man City will do whatever business they need to get done, because they have an endless pot of money to get into. But
great commercial deals as well. Don't forget the great commercial deals.
There's always a new betting company that nobody's ever heard of and doesn't actually exist that can give you a whole pile of money. But let's move down. Let's move down the next spot on the list to a team that is going to be very hotly linked, I think, all summer in terms of transfers, and that's Arsenal. And I'll just rattle off some of the names that I've got on here: Xerxes, Sesko, Rashford, Desiree Doué, Isak, Bilo, Brian Bobby. Like, it's pretty obvious looking at the Arsenal team from last season, Chris, that they can massively improve with a center forward. Definitely. And it seems like they're being linked with every center forward under the sun.
Yeah, definitely, because, Nketiah isn't good enough for winning the title. And Gabriel Jesus is a very good player, but he can't stay fit. He's also not renowned for being like a 25 goal a season striker. So it is an area they need. But from what I've read, from the bits I've seen on the PSR piece, they do have to sell a few to balance it out. But do you know what? They could sell Ramsdale will go in the summer, English keeper, so they'll get big money for him. I think Nketiah will go. He's homegrown, so he's a pure profit. So I think in terms of finding the money, they'll find it as long as they get the sales through. And the other thing is for next season they'll have Julian Timber from the start, whereas I think last year they got like 3 games out of him because of a knee injury.
I don't even know if they got 3. I think they might have gotten 1.
I think he played the last couple of games as well. So I think, but they didn't get much out of him because of he was unfortunate with a knee injury. So having him back naturally strengthens the defense, which didn't concede a lot. So, But yeah, for them, it just seems to be a striker is what they need. And if I'm honest, probably a left back, a proper left back, because they're always playing that. They're either play Zinchenko can't stay fit, or they'll play the centre back at left back. He did fine there, but they probably want a more natural left back. Tommy Asu did a job there, but he's a right footer. So, they're probably the 2 positions you would expect for Arsenal. But I think, like all the top 3, City, Liverpool, and Arsenal, I think they're all tweaks, like 2 or 3. 2 or 3, and sometimes you need that little bit of luck. But beyond that, I think the bigger business you'll see is from 4th below.
Yeah. Kieran B says, I could see them getting Sesko. Isak would take a massive price to pay to prize him off of Newcastle, and Arsenal would need to pay him very healthy wages. And says that Sesko should be easily attainable. And that was one you were kind of mentioning to me before we came on, Kev. I mean, he's another one of the Red Bull Academy products coming through there. And he seems to be kind of the next hot product coming out of the Salzburg-Leipzig pipeline, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. He's very good. Very versatile as well. Strong, powerful. 20 years of age. Talent is there for anyone to see. The thing is, you got to look at him and think, is he going to come in and be your main man at Arsenal? Probably not. But in much the same way Manchester United did with Højlund, Højlund, I think, is an absolute top-tier striker in the making if you can service him properly. Sesko is a gamble worth probably taking at his age and his profile. I think he's got everything. He's got all the tools to be a proper number 9. But I don't think he's going to give you immediate reward. But the flip side of that is you look at the amount of possession and chances that Arsenal create, unlike a Manchester United. Arsenal will dominate the ball. They will create you chances with the players that they have in behind the striker. So who knows? But yeah, he looks like he's one that Arsenal should be definitely chasing. The other interesting one at Arsenal is you've got Thomas Partey with a year left in his deal. You've seen a lot of talk during the last week that he was going to be out the door at Arsenal. I don't think he will be. I think that Arsenal will be quite happy to leave him keep him for the year, let him run out his deal. Because as we're seeing, go and replace when the chips were down at the end of the season, the last few games, Arteta used him. He brought him in and he played him. When he needed to get games over the line, he started him. So I wouldn't be a bit surprised if they just say, okay, we'll let you run your contract down and on your bike after that, because going to try to replace him as well as bring in a top tier striker and at least one left back and pay for David Raya is probably too much to ask for Arsenal, even with the potential outgoings that they need to make. So I just think you could see the situation where Partey stays. Definitely need to address the left back issue. Striker for sure. But yeah, and the fact that they've got stability in their manager as well is going to help them next season. Whereas there's so much chopping and changing with managers up and down the league, including ourselves. It's having the stability of the management and the coaching staff and the bulk of players staying is going to be a massive help to Arsenal. So they don't need massive surgery. They just need tweaking that. They did the heavy lifting over the last few years. with the amount of money they've spent to get to where they are. Whether that's good enough to take the next step, who knows? But
but also at some point, the money they got to pay for those players does need repaying.
But that's why if you go back to the Wenger idea, as long as you're continually qualifying for the Champions League and you've got that steady stream of income coming in year after year after year, it allows you to invest that money better. Whereas if you're in and out, if you're doing like what Newcastle did, qualify for the Champions League, then you're out of it completely, that throws a massive spanner in the works because you can't do anything. Same as Spurs. If you're continually qualifying for the Champions League, that in itself allows you more flexibility to be able to bring in better quality players over a period of maybe 4 windows or 5 windows, 2.5 years. Whereas if you're chopping and changing, you're in and out, you're in the Conference League, you're in the Europa League, you're in the Champions League, then you're back out of it altogether. That throws your finances all over the show.
Yeah, I think Arsenal's going to definitely see a couple of their academy products heading out. Like you mentioned, Nketiah, I think Emile Smith-Rowe might be another one of those. It represents that pure profit type of player that you can get out. Is Balogun, was he on loan or did they sell him last summer?
I'll find out.
Yeah,
but
he's another one.
Jono makes a point there about Arsenal with FFP.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, with Arsenal's FFP, it's more about the sales that they're capable of making. The players that they're going to be looking to sell this summer, your Emile Smith-Rowe's, Eddie Nketiah, even Ramsdale. They don't really owe anything on Ramsdale. So that in itself lifts a massive amount off their FFP top line straight away. They couldn't do anything in the January window, but with their ability to sell properly this summer, it gives them flex. Say if you sell a £50 million player who's homegrown, come through the academy, just for example, that gives you 50 million that you can invest over the period of someone else's contract. So for 5 years. So you could literally split that in 3 and buy 3 players with that money over a 5-year period. That reduces your annual payments every year. Whereas you got the profit from one player straight away. Yeah. So they can play that game because they've got so many good young homegrown players that they can make good money from. It doesn't have to be astronomical money. But like what we did with the likes of Jordan Ibe and stuff like that.
Yeah,
a 20 million sale of a homegrown player gives you an awful lot of flexibility in the transfer market under these rules.
Yeah, so Mana Subadai in the chat said that Balogun was sold to Monaco last summer, and then Ashley follows up. They got 30 million euros for him. So, I mean, that's 30 million right off the PSR right there. And then Menace also mentions
Reece Nelson is another one.
Reece Nelson is another one of their players to sell. But there was, it was up here from somebody. I think it might have been Jono. Where'd that comment go? Of saying Arsenal probably need to look at getting another center half in as well, because they got extremely lucky with their injuries this year, where Saliba and Gabriel were basically available for every single minute of every single game this season. And there's a pretty big drop off. If you have to be shifting either Tomiyasu back into the middle or Ben White from playing auxiliary right back into center half again, there's a pretty massive.
Well, the guy they play left back, so Kivior.
Oh yeah,
he's out. That's it. Their 2 backup centre backs end up playing fullback because of injuries to fullback. So while they were looking at the 2 in the middle, they had to play centre backs at fullback. So
yeah. And Darren says Smith-Rowe has Leicester written all over him. Kieran B saying Ramsdale's going to be sold, likely Smith-Rowe as well too. I mean, Ramsdale won't count as pure profit because he was obviously purchased from Sheffield United, I think it was. Yeah, and Super Dizza follows up with this. Saliba and Gabriel are most likely going to play for their countries in the summer as well too. Yeah, with the Euros and the Copa America on. And Ashley, I was saying Jurriën Timber comes back as well too. So they do have some reinforcements there, but it doesn't exactly help them in the center half department because.
Well, I think it makes Ben White your third choice centre back, doesn't it?
Yeah,
I think Ben White's their utility defender, isn't it?
That's a pretty big drop off, I'd say, from that starting 2, because that's a pretty good pair in Gabriel and Saliba. So it's a big downgrade from there. Another team, if we just skip over Liverpool, because again, reminder to everybody in the chat, we are legally not allowed to do any Liverpool chat tonight on Gav's orders. Go right down to fourth place, the surprise package of the season in terms of where they finished in the league. Aston Villa finishing fourth. A lot of names linked in here as well. So these will all be news to you, Chris, because you didn't do any homework.
Let's get the reactions then. Go on.
All right. Well, I mean, first off, possibly coming back into the Liverpool fold by way of FSG expanding their portfolio. Philip Coutinho linked with a move to Vasco da Gama, which I believe he might have started his career in Brazil at Vasco da Gama. Completely forgot that Coutinho was still on Aston Villa's books, which is absolutely hilarious. Sorry, here we go. Conor Gallagher at Chelsea, linked with Villa.
Makes sense. That makes sense. Because they do need depth. They do need depth, and he sort of like does what McGinn does as well, so it allows you to rotate for the extra games. I think Chelsea was stupid to get rid of him, though.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Ross Barkley at Luton.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, I think it's squad depth. And, to be fair to Ross Barkley, I'm not his biggest fan, but he did well at Luton. I think that's probably given that little bit of a mobility back and sort of like knowing what he is, which is probably playing as one of the deeper two. And they have got a couple of players with like quite serious knee injuries at the moment, haven't they? With Ramsey's out with an ACL, and sure one of the other lads has got a bad knee injury as well. So they do need a little bit of depth, centre mid. So they seem logical so far.
Wait, Emmett says Ross Barkley was at Villa already?
I think he might have been at loan there.
He really gets around.
When he was at Chelsea, I think when he's at Chelsea, they loaned him in January.
And then Ashley says that Philip Coutinho was in the Vasco da Gama youth setup. So there you go. See, well done, chat. Best chat going out here. I mean, yeah, in terms of Ross Barkley, I think last season with Luton for Ross Barkley is the perfect example of a guy proving that he deserves to play in the Premier League. Because I thought he had let his career kind of pass him by and was kind of falling into that Jack Rodwell kind of territory. But I thought he was actually quite good for him. Now, here's a throwback name from last summer for you, Chris. Gabri Veiga. Remember talking about Gabri Veiga? He was at Celta Vigo 2 seasons ago.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. He went to Saudi Arabia, and shockingly, I don't remember hearing his name since last summer when he was linked with us. Michael Elise at Palace. It seems like he's going to be mooted with everybody.
I think any of the English sides in Europe would want him.
Yeah,
he's also a homegrown diddle, which is really helpful because he's come through the Reading Academy and he was part of the Chelsea Academy at one point as well. So, although he's French, he classes as homegrown, so he'll be an extortionate fee. But at 22, he'd be brilliant for wherever he goes. But also staying at Palace, I mean, the way me and Kev were debating off air, the way Palace ended last season, he might want to give it another year because it was pretty. I mean, Palace were really enjoyable to watch. I know we didn't feel like that at Anfield, but Palace were really good to watch. They were, so. But yeah, at least it doesn't surprise me. But I can see more than just Villa looking at Elise if he's available.
Yeah,
Liverpool would look at him, and I think Arsenal would look at him because I think he'd do things for Arsenal. And do you know what? He'd even work in the City setup if they're going to get rid of Jack Grealish.
Yep. Yeah, it might be the best summer ever to be Michael Elise's agent.
Yeah.
and
if you're Palace, you made up because you got to sign that contract extension last summer when he was going to go to Chelsea.
Yeah.
So they've guaranteed themselves now big money if he does decide to go.
Yeah, it seems like Crystal Palace have played their hand quite well there, and he recovered from that injury very good.
Yeah.
And then the final 2 names that I have down here are Denzel Dumfries at Inter Milan and a blast from the past, Wilfried Zaha from Galatasaray.
He did well. He's still well over in Turkey. Bit of experience. And they've got a lot of... I think the thing for Villa is they've probably got a couple of players that have got some sort of European experience, because it's quite a young... sort of wide positions. So, and Dumfries, look, they probably do need another fullbacks. I think they had centre back. What's his name? Konza was playing a lot of fullback because of injuries. So, Dumfries makes sense. But haven't Inter just got close to winning the league? So, but I don't know how much he was playing for them because I thought he was a regular for them. But none of them seem particularly shocking. They all seem fairly logical where they've got gaps.
Yeah, and I think
the worry for them is if they can keep Ollie Watkins.
Yeah, or have all of their defenders pick up massive injuries again, like they have in the past couple of seasons. But I mean, you have any advances on those for Villa, Kev? Because I agree with Chris. I think those all kind of make sense when you look at Villa's team from last season and go, where would you improve there? It would be a little bit of depth, a little bit more attacking power to take some of the pressure off of Ollie Watkins.
Yeah, they're all cheap, and that's the market that Villa are looking in at the minute. They're looking at loans. They're looking not loans, but out of contract players with just smart business. They've spent a lot of money, deceivingly under the radar. Villa have spent a lot of money to get into the top four. Unai Emery, 5-year deal, very good manager. The volume of football it's all right doing it in the Conference League because you can take a few gambles in it. Even in the group stages, I'm pretty sure Villa didn't go full strength in the group stages.
No.
They won't have that luxury this time around, and they'll need to bring in some experience, depth. And you list the names there that you're talking about. Gallagher, they're linked with. Ross Barkley, I think, is a very, very clever bit of business if they get that one over the line, because he can offer you pretty much anything in the middle of the park. Whatever you want him to do, he can come in and do a job for you, and I think that'd
Ross
be a clever
Barkley
bit
to me
of
seems like a nice combination of what you get with John McGinn and Douglas Luiz. Like he seems like he would fit very well in that Aston Villa midfield.
This is going to be Villa's biggest problem. I think there's two unsaleable players that they have. Emi Martinez and Ollie Watkins. There is no way under the face of this earth that Villa will contemplate selling either of those two. Unless Watkins threatens to go on strike. And that's just not going to happen. So and the main reason is because whatever money you get from him, you're not going to be able to reinvest that money and get someone who's going to give you his goals. So what's the point? You've got yourself to the dance. The last thing you want to do is throw away the keys to it.
So give a chance at least.
The only ones I'd look at, I think, would be interesting is Ezri Konsa. Can they keep Ezri Konsa? Can they keep Douglas Luiz? Can they keep those two players and be clever about the rest of their transfer business? And they could have a really good summer. But I think there's some players that there are two players for me that they really need to keep. The rest of them, I'd say they'll have no problem holding on to. They're in a really good spot. There's no reason why they shouldn't be pushing on from here, really.
Yeah, it's going to be a big season for him. I mean, Scouser Pete says Villa need depth. They're screwed outside of the 13-14 starters. And exactly what you said, Kev. Not only are they making the jump from the Conference League to the Champions League, but it's an expanded Champions League as well, too. And a lot of their players impressed enough that they're also going to be off on summer duty. So having that shortened summer break period, coming back in, not having that full, 6 weeks off, rest, whatever. Who finished 5th? Spurs?
Yes.
All right. Spurs finished 5th. Some of the outgoings for Spurs that I saw, tentative links of Heung-min Son to a move to Saudi Arabia, which
it'd be stupid to let him go.
I mean, yeah, and it's just Saudi Arabia rumors. It seems like every big player
every club, in the league, players go to Saudi Arabia.
Yeah,
if you believe the papers. So
yeah, Emerson Royale with Cheese linked with either a move to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia or to AC Milan. And then
if I was Spurs, I'd drive him there.
And one that kind of both made me laugh and surprised me was Draguzin, who came in January, linked with a move back to Italy to go back to go play for Napoli. I mean, Chris, that seems like that transfer didn't exactly work out for Spurs, did it?
He's going to be there 6 months. Jesus wept. You know what I mean? He came in January.
He didn't really get a lot of game time there.
No, he didn't know, but I seem to remember a certain Vidic and Evra not setting the world light when they came in January. Got a pre-season under the belt and they were fine. So,
all right, you've heard it here first. Chris Brack says that Draguzin is the next Vidic.
No, but Joe, we've seen guys who come in January, been shit, and then by the summer they actually settle in and they're all right. So,
listen, the only thing I'd say about Draguzin is that there's every chance he hasn't settled in England.
It happens.
It happens, and sometimes you're as well off bite the bullet early while he still holds a value, because if he stays for another year and he doesn't play, or he doesn't play as much as what you need him to, and his value plummets, you're screwed. So also, at some point, you're going to have to cut your losses.
But also, Spurs need depth because they had no European football last year.
Yeah. None.
So they've got to deal with Europa League. I know you can rotate Europa League, but you need to play someone. And look, so
well,
I'll be surprised after 6 months they bin him off. But the bits he played, he didn't look terrible. He looked fine.
I mean, they could get rid of him because they are rumored to be looking at a certain Dutch center half currently plying his trade at Middlesbrough. I didn't write his first name down, but it is the other Vandenberg. Sepp's little brother linked with that, but it seems like the rest of the rumors surrounding Tottenham are all kind of attacking wise. So you've got El Nesri at Sevilla, Desiree Doué, who is linked with Arsenal and also Man United, maybe. I've never heard of this guy before, and his name is all over the rumor pages. Is Desiree Doué at Rennes, a left winger. A guy named Sudikov, who's an attacking midfielder at Shakhtar. And then an interesting one, Callum Hudson-Odoi, who's currently at Nottingham Forest. So,
yeah, I think
right. The thing is, the only thing I'd say about Spurs, Ange come out at the end of the season and basically throw everyone under the fucking bus. It's everyone else's fault except Ange, mate. You know what I mean, mate? And it's like,
is that his Cockney accent going out?
He hasn't done himself any favors. You've got Richarlison come out and saying, "Yeah, I'm not going anywhere." So he signed Timo Werner on loan, which on paper, Timo Werner looks a good signing on loan, extended for you. When you actually drill it down, he scored 2 goals in 6 months,
which is what, double his Chelsea output.
Yeah,
but at the end of the day, does that really warrant the 100+ grand they're going to be paying for him in wages alone? Fine, there's no loan fee, but you're still going to be having dead money going out the club for a guy who's got very little return in him for you, apart from filling a space in your squad. I think Spurs are a mess, and they've been a mess for a while. I think they got by on the good start to the season they had last year, but the second half of this season, they've been so bad. They've been so poor, and the way they finished the season was an absolute embarrassment. It was atrocious. They go and get a result against Villa and then throw away the top 4. I mean, it is absolute disgrace what he's done with Spurs, with the way he's played, and then have the audacity to throw the players under the bus at the end of the season. He's a shocker, to be honest. Delighted he's nowhere near our club. Can't stand him.
I love it. It's funny actually just how the general mood around Ange Postecoglou kind of turned. I think a lot of it started with that Chelsea game where most people were like, what are you doing? But then as the results started to drop off and Spurs got worse, and then like you said, Kev, that end of the season just it's not good for him. So brilliant for him. But I mean, if we flip that around, a team that didn't start so well but ended quite well, because I'm pretty sure they ended up finishing in 6th, is Chelsea, who I don't know where they're going to get the money from, Chris. I mean, I guess, yes, selling more things.
Just selling a hotel to yourself, allegedly.
Yeah, selling more things to themselves. I saw a couple of rumored goalkeepers in Jordan Pickford and Jan Oblak linked to them, because I don't think either Sanchez or who was the guy that deputized for Sanchez?
Petrovic.
I don't think either of them are really what Chelsea need to take them up to the next level. Tosin Adarabioyo linked with them. I believe he's on a free transfer, having left Fulham. And then Jules Koundé from Barcelona. I mean, one club with no money buying a player from another club with no money. And then the 3 favorite names so far, it seems like this transfer window: Crescencio Somerville, Michael Elise, and Benjamin Sesko, also on the radar. So clearly those 3 players' agents are doing great work of fueling.
A striker makes sense because Jackson's very erratic. And I don't think they have much behind them in terms of consistent goal threats other than Palmer. So looking for another striker does make sense. And the Ukrainian winger they've got, honestly, it just feels like money laundering in front of your eyes, because how that's an £80 million footballer, I will never know. Is he 80 million? It was some ridiculous
something like that. He's up there with Nicolas Pepe in terms of.
He literally is living at the hype of skinning James Milner. I'm like, yeah, but he hasn't done anything since. Honestly, Arsenal dodged the bullet not getting it because I don't see it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Super Tizzle says I'd forgotten about Kepa. I'm sure Chelsea have too. I believe he does. He returns, doesn't he?
Yeah.
So
Chelsea have 50 first team players. 21 players they had out on loan. They had 21 players out on loan this season. They have a brand new manager, Mini Pep, Baby Pep, whatever you want to call him.
Mascara.
We do love baldy refs. It's all baldy managers now, isn't it?
Chelsea will have no problem raising money. They have enough assets there to be able to sell.
Still got Lukaku. You forget these.
They still have Lukaku. No, they'll get 35 million for Lukaku. They will get money in. I've no doubt in my mind.
He's doing brilliant in Italy, so he'll be fine.
Yeah, they'll get money in. They need to sell players. There's plenty of players to sell, and you've got the likes of Thiago Silva's wages and everything going off the bill. You've got him to replace. They've got business that needs to be done, but ultimately Chelsea need to slow down. They need to slow down. They need to figure out a way. I mean, apparently this guy that's coming in, Maresca, he's a head coach. He's not a manager. Rightly so. He shouldn't be involved in any of the decisions bringing players in. And if I was him, I would be very much along the lines of, this has nothing to do with me. I have no influence in this decision whatsoever. They just give me players and tell me to go and win games. Because when this goes all belly up in 6 months or 9 months and he's sacked, he can turn around and say, look, did you see the shit show that was going on there? I had nothing to do with this. I had nothing to do with any of it. So I think it's a blessing in disguise for him. It's a free hit for him. If he comes in and turns it around and makes us, because look, they finished the season really strongly. They finished the season really well, playing some good football. They have good players there. I mean, you still got Wesley Fofana to come back, £70 million centre back that hasn't been available to him for 2 years, through injury. So
it's what Stacey will be in after 2 years out.
This guy, when he comes in, he likes playing this very similar to Guardiola, where he brings a defender into midfield to create overloads.
Lavia to come back as well. God, he went there as well.
But when you look at the players that Chelsea have at the back who've done this role, Gusto has done it in France. Reece James can do it. They've got 3 or 4 what you call good footballers that can play the way Maresca kind of wants to play. So I don't know if I don't see Chelsea in a million years challenging for the top 4 next season. But they've got the nuts and bolts of a good squad there.
If they got a decent enough offer, do you think they'd offload Reece James? Just because of his injury?
I don't think it would take much. I think they'd be.
I'm thinking that because he's barely played in the last since we've made captain. He's barely played. Not his fault, but I do wonder if they got the option to cut the losses, and he's again a PSR pure profit, so it kind of suits the club more. Probably a player.
You got him, Chalobah. You got him and Chalobah. Apparently, Oblak is out of contract. He's got 12 months left in his contract, and he wants to move to England. And that kind of a move makes sense. Chelsea desperately need a keeper.
Yeah.
And he's the top tier one. But yeah, I agree with him. Maresca will be gone by Christmas. 100% he'll be gone. I mean, at the end of the day, if the season starts in the middle of August and he's not 3rd or 4th favourite in the sack race, there's something seriously amiss. He's definitely got pictures of people in compromising positions if he's not in the top 3 or 4 in the sack race. 100%.
And Ashley, I was wondering if Lampard will be back by January.
He's the Burnley manager. He's going to be the new Burnley manager.
Brian O'Halloran says Maresca and company will be sad at home watching Home Alone first week of December. But yeah, I was surprised. I mean, not so much the appointment of Maresca because I didn't watch enough of Leicester really to say one way or the other, but the fact that they gave him a 5-year deal after only giving Pochettino a 2-year deal. Like, it was like they had kind of figured it out because I believe they're still paying Graham Potter. Emmett had mentioned earlier that, Man United were paying Moyes for 6 years after he left, sort of thing. Like, eventually you gotta.
I would lay good money that Chelsea have clauses in break clauses in that 5-year deal.
Yeah.
That if you don't qualify, if you don't reach this points total, this many wins, if you don't make these achievements, then we can terminate your deal. Yeah. And he's in a position where, look, I'm being offered a Chelsea job here. It's way too young in my managerial career to be getting this job, but when you're offered to it on a plate, same as Vincent Kompany going to Bayern Munich, when it's offered to you, you're a fool not to take it because you've got nothing to lose.
Yeah, because if he gets sacked by Chelsea, everyone goes, "Who doesn't?"
Everyone gets sacked by Chelsea.
Everyone gets sacked by
Are
Chelsea.
you even a real manager if you haven't been sacked by Chelsea in the last 20 years?
That's what I mean. So he's getting you sacked by Chelsea. Have you seen what it's like over there? And I think most chairmen will go, "Yeah, you're probably right." To be fair.
Yeah. Kieran B is wondering if Reece James is going to the Euros. I do not believe that he was included.
No, he's not. No, he's not.
And I mean, Chris, you said it's not his fault that he didn't play a lot of games. I mean, the red cards were kind of his fault.
Oh, the red cards were. I mean, injuries. I was talking. I mean, the red cards were funny. Yeah. I meant more the injuries because he's getting persistent knee.
Last 12 months, he's had really bad ones, hasn't he?
Yeah, bad knee, a couple of bad knee ones, and a really bad hamstring one.
Yeah,
they're not. That's what I mean. It's not his fault. Yeah, the red cards were just funny though.
Yeah, it's. I mean, Emmett says Reece James is a professional patient whose career has been hampered by a few big football matches. And Kieran B says he was fantastic in the 6 months, the year they won the Champions League. He looked brilliant, but that's it. The cheek of people putting him on the same level or above Trent. I mean, we all know that.
No, he's not on that level, but I'm telling you now, he's a very capable footballer.
Yeah,
he's a very capable footballer.
Just not capable of staying fit.
I look at him and I think a proper fitness coach, a real medical department needs to get hold of him and sort his body shape out. He's too big. He's carrying too much. He's just built wrong. For a footballer, if he was a winger in rugby, you'd be like, yeah, okay. If he was playing rugby league, you'd be like, yeah, fair enough.
Klopp said something about Joe Gomez when he came back from injury, saying, he's got a great body for Baywatch, he said, but not for a footballer. And they said we had to slim him down. He said he put too much muscle mass on.
It's part of the problem, I think, is that you can't be out doing the running and the cardio and stuff like that, but you can hit the weights all you want, and you just.
A lot of that is also that's injury avoidance, which is building your muscles up. There's a lot of science.
It's not a problem. Yeah, not a problem I have. Let's go down another one. I mean, it's another team that seems like they're hampered by lack of money. I mean, Arsenal, Aston Villa, Chelsea, maybe not. They don't have a pot to piss in, but it doesn't seem like they're overflowing with money. And the nouveau riche Newcastle also seeming like they don't have a ton of money, Kev. I mean, there's always the talk going on that they're going to have to get rid of one of their big players, whether that's Gordon, whether that's Alexander Isak, whether that's Bruno Guimaraes. Bruno linked with a potential move to Saudi Arabia, shock horror, or Manchester City, which would be a fucking horror, actually. And then I got 4 players here that they're linked with in terms of ins, and they're either frees or very reasonably priced players to flesh out that squad for them. You seeing the same thing?
Yeah, you can see the players leaving who are linked away. I don't think they sell any of the big boys. They don't need to. But I think they definitely could look at your man Miguel Almiron, get him out. There's a couple of homegrown players like young lads that Longstaff maybe. You can see him going. Tonali comes back into that squad. He misses the first 2 games of the season.
Did he get extended?
No. It's on it's kind of like suspended.
Oh, it's months. Sorry, it's not games, isn't it?
Yeah, but I don't believe for a second that anyone is spending £100 million on Bruno Guimaraes, and plus the fact I don't know if he wants to go.
No,
I'd be very, very surprised if Bruno Guimaraes leaves them this season. Same with Alexander Isak. They don't need to sell him. They can make the money up that they need to make up elsewhere with other sales in the squad. And the fact that they don't have Europe this season is a blessing for them, because Eddie Howe's biggest problem this season was keeping players fit. Yeah. It was losing Tonali. Once they lost Tonali, everything went sideways after that. People started dropping like flies, coming back from injury too quick, and then going out again. We've seen this dance before as well.
Yeah.
So you're trying to keep up with the volume of fixtures that they were involved in, and ultimately they just couldn't do it. It was. But I think if they're out of Europe this season and they only have to concentrate on the league, you could see them having a right go again. Because when Tonali was the few games that he did play at the start of last season, he looked a quality player. I mean, I remember one of the first year I was on, we were doing transfers, and he just moved from Brescia to AC Milan, and we were linked with him while he was at Brescia, and I was hoping to God that we would get it. But he went to AC Milan and he really kicked on. I just think he comes back into that midfield. You have midfield three of him, Bruno Guimaraes, and Joe Linton. That's a good midfield. With Isaac up front, if they hold on to Anthony, even if they turn around, if they lose Anthony Gordon, but if they keep an Anthony Gordon as well, they have the makings of a very good side without Europe that can really push to get back into those European places again. So,
yeah, I think it's a good point.
They need a centre back, though. They definitely need a centre back.
Yeah, not being in Europe, it just feels like if they could have, if you could plan it out, they would flip the last 2 seasons around. Being in the Champions League was great, but it was way too much of a burden on the squad, and it just seemed like Jason Tyndall didn't know how to manage his players properly, because I believe he is the real manager of Newcastle Football Club. The amount of clown antics on the sidelines there. But yeah, I mean, Newcastle linked with Tosin Adarabioyo again on a free at Fulham to come in and provide that center half cover Chris that Kev was talking about. Lloyd Kelly, another center half at Bournemouth.
I think that's smart. Lloyd Kelly's smart because he also covers fullback.
Yeah. And that's a free transfer as well too. And then goalkeeper, because presumably they need to fill the hole left by the departing as a free agent Loris Karius, but highly doubtful. But James Trafford at Burnley and Aaron Ramsdale at Arsenal. I don't know if that's just them not having faith in Nick Pope, because I don't think either of those two keepers are as good as Nick Pope, but he didn't get back into the team when he recovered from his injury at the end of the season. They kept going with Dubravka. I'm just wondering if maybe there's an issue there with.
Perhaps they didn't want to get selected for England. So just so he can have a summer off to properly recover from his shoulder injury. Shoulder injuries are always a bit of a nightmare anyway, but especially for a goalkeeper, because you're more likely to pop them again. So, but like you said, both those keepers aren't as good as Pope. So maybe they just want some really good options behind in case Pope has a relapse with his shoulder, and they don't have to look at Dubravka, because I don't think they fancy him either.
Yeah, I think the thing is, when you look at goalkeepers, whenever you see a goalkeeper that gets an injured shoulder, that's immediate red flags. Immediate red flags. Because if that goes again, he's gone for the season. You have to have a capable number 2 who can come in and do a proper job. So I think both those keepers that they're linked with they're good, capable keepers. They can both come in and do a job for you. So, and again, they're not going to cost the earth.
Yeah. And Brian O'Halloran's asking, isn't there depth a problem too? They released a few yesterday. Karius, Richie, Hendrick. There was a couple other names on there as well too. And I
think Hendrick was on loan though, wasn't it? I don't think Hendrick actually featured for Newcastle.
Out of all of those players that they've let go, though, you look at the amount of games that they played, and I bet you it's single digits.
No, but
even in cup games.
I think that speaks to their lack of depth, though, is that Eddie Howe and Jason Tyndall didn't have the faith in those players. The same with Emil Kraft and stuff like that. They didn't have the faith in those players to put them in for an FA Cup game, or I guess they didn't really have a dead rubber Champions League game given the group that they were drawn into. But he just kept running the same players out again and again and again. So they might have released a few of these players, as free agents, but they're going to need the bodies replaced in the team. And you can't be expecting, what was the kid, Miley, that came through and just was an absolute lifesaver for him in the middle of the season after Tonali got suspended. Well, let's move on down the table into 8th place. And this can't possibly be right. Manchester United finished in 8th. Oh, isn't that just absolutely hilarious? Isn't that just absolutely hilarious?
The back, though. Don't worry, the back.
Oh, yes. Well, somebody mentioned, it might have been Madge Apple, I think, that Eric Ten Hag gave a rendition of Al Pacino's Any Given Sunday speech before the FA Cup final game. So that's that really explains it. If you're familiar with the movie and the speech, that's clearly why they ended up winning that game. But Ten Hag is the first question on that, Chris. I mean, all the news in the week leading up to the FA Cup final was win, lose, or draw. He's gone.
I'm surprised he's still there.
And then they win. And I'm on the Red Devils subreddit and reading it, and everybody on there seems like we can't get rid of him. We can't get rid of him. We have to keep him. We have to keep him. Everybody's going, remember Ferguson was on the chopping block and he won the FA Cup, and then it was the start of a dynasty. And this could be the same thing. And it's like, believe that. Please believe that.
Yeah. Well, they did the same with Van Gaal, didn't they? He won the FA Cup and they still got rid of him.
Yeah.
To be honest, I don't know. Because if they get rid of him, I don't know if they get it. Probably De Zerbi. But it's whether the structure above them's sorted. And I'm getting the impression it's not still sorted. They still haven't sorted the chief exec out and all that sort of jazz. So, and listen, it feels like there's a lot of work to do there because, Varane's left. Looks Casemiro's probably going to leave. I would expect Eriksen to probably go.
Martial's gone.
Rashford, does he stay? Does he go? I think for his career, I think him and Man United probably need a fresh start. So a move might do him good to sort of kick him on, new challenge. And I actually think Man United, it would do them world of good because it'll be homegrown player gone. It'll be a big PSR boost. So it'll be giving them even more money to replace him. So it just feels like there's a lot to do there. But they've got the nucleus of really good players there.
You're being very generous. I mean,
no, I think an attack they have. I mean, to be honest, they need to go to Anthony because he's just a waste of money.
That's if you rate Garnacho, which I'm not.
I think Garnacho is fine. He's probably a little bit overhyped, but if you have a Garnacho in your squad, I think you're fine. But Højlund, I agree with Kev. I think he's excellent. He just doesn't got the service around him. Mason Mount can't stay fit, and defensively, they've had nearly all their centre backs injured at some point. I'm assuming Johnny Evans was only on a 1-year deal, so I don't know if he's on his way out.
And I believe he was signed only to just be there for like the summer training
pre-season, and then they kept him.
Ends up making probably the most appearances out of any of their center halves for the year. Yeah, I mean, there's the rumors are that Casemiro might be going to Saudi Arabia, which would be a really, really financially beneficial move for Manchester United. I'm sure that they would absolutely be over the moon with that because I did a show with you guys and the Man United fan at the start of the season trying to warn him that Casemiro looked like he was completely shot. And he's like, no, he'll be fine. And it was like, holy fuck, dude, you were wrong because he is shot. But he's on a massive amount of money. And he's got, I think another 2 or 3 years left on that contract. So that would be very, very beneficial for them. But they're linked with Trevor Chalobah. We already mentioned possibly leaving Chelsea. Jared Branthwaite,
makes sense.
The big center half target that's there. Desiree Doué, again, the name that just keeps popping up absolutely everywhere. And then another one with some interest for those of us of the Liverpool persuasion, Johan Bakayoko, also linked in for them. Kev, you
there's another one there
United
as well.
Doing?
They had to sort it out at the back. They went through the season last season with 15 different partnerships of centre back. That's just not going to.
What did we have in the COVID?
Doesn't matter.
No, but it was like 30, wasn't it?
We had goals. That was the difference. We could score goals.
Mm.
They can't. They had the worst of all problems is the fact that they couldn't. We were fine with having Reece Williams and Nat Phillips as centre back because of the protection that was around them and Fabinho, and you had forwards who were always lively and always likely to bail you out. They don't. They have to sort it out at the back. Getting Varane. Varane was the one centre back who played the most for them last season, scarily enough. Jared Branthwaite is one they have to get over the line. They have to get at least him. Chalobah would make sense. Get the two of them in with Maguire, with that young French kid that they had that played against us. as an option as maybe your
Willie
fifth centre
Campwalla.
back. Yeah, as maybe your fourth or fifth centre back. Then see where it takes you. But they have to sort it out at the back. What they do with Ten Hag, at this rate, they're behind. Everyone else looks like they've made their decisions. You look at the managers who are out there now. Pochettino, Pochettino could come in there and do a job. Xavi, his English is pretty good. He could come in and do a job. But are they going to get rid of him? I don't know. I don't think they will. I think they'll stick with him.
Really?
I just think that they'll look at this last season, and they'll look at the amount of injuries they've had through the year, and the fact that he's got two trophies in his time at the club. And they'll say, he'll turn around and say, well, what the hell do you want? Yeah. You've given me this side. They're riddled with injuries. I can't do anything with it. I've got you a trophy. They have to do something. They have to change what they're doing. Chris was saying about the structure above them. You got the guy who's got the most beautiful garden in the world coming from Newcastle because he's been out there for so long. You got the guy that's coming from Man City, doesn't start until July. So don't know what scope there.
Assuming he starts with these leaked emails that also came out about him.
And that's another problem. Are you
talking about the one where they're asking for voluntary resignations to help keep costs down at Manchester United? Because that's outrageous. That's outrageous. A multi-billion-pound company like Manchester United.
No. It's not about that.
Apparently, the guy that they want from Newcastle, was it the guy from Man City? He accidentally forwarded an email, which is basically Man United asking him to put his notice in.
Yeah,
so it's like illegally approaching him, but it's in an email. That's the press release that came out, which, if true, is
Manchester United mile off challenging for titles or even challenging for top four. But you saw in that FA Cup final that they're capable of getting results against anyone when they have players on the pitch who can do a job for them. I don't think Rashford goes either because, everyone has a bad season. That's allowed. But I don't think anyone is going out spending the kind of transfer fee that would be needed to get Marcus Rashford out of Manchester United because of the wages he's on. I don't think anyone is paying it for him. They might have done, not last summer, but after the year before, when he was on fire, they might have gambled on him then. I don't think they're gambling on him now. So I think they're stuck with some players. Mason Greenwood looks like they're trying to engineer a swap deal for Mason Greenwood and João Felix, with Mason Greenwood going to Atletico Madrid. I didn't realize João Felix is still only 24. He feels like he's been around forever. He's 24. Manchester United are a juggernaut of a club. Money is not a problem to them. They'll go and get good players again. It's just a case of can they put it together and stay fit and healthy for a season? Who knows? But they'll be fun.
Yeah, Abo third here saying that Radcliffe has given Ten Hag a lifeline to keep his job. Apparently, Ten Hag's brother is a roofer. So there you go. That's the kind of humor you get with experience. That's absolutely brilliant from you there, Abo. I mean, that covers off kind of the top teams. In terms of the teams lower, the middle bottom part of the table, I don't know about you, Kev. I mean, I know Chris didn't find anything because he did no preparation for this, but I didn't find a whole heck of a lot of rumors for teams down at the bottom. I mean, in terms of coming up, Southampton.
Joe Matip to Bournemouth is one rumor I've seen.
Really?
Yeah.
That'd be
Adam Lallana back to Southampton.
Yeah, Lallana to Southampton, and Southampton would like to have Flynn Downs again from West Ham, but it seems like West Ham are going to want to keep a hold of him.
I think that's a deal that West Ham can literally put a blank check in front of Southampton because the Southampton fans are desperate for that deal to get done. And of all the clubs that have come up, I think Southampton look like the ones who are geared to go out and spend a bit. I don't think Leicester will. I think Leicester are going to do what Luton did. I think they'll go straight back down and they won't spend a bob, or they'll spend very, very little. I don't think they'll fight it this season. I think they'll gear up to try to do it again the following year. Get this FFP stuff out of the way. Ipswich, God knows what they're going to do. I mean, the fact that they were able to keep Kieran McKenna and they've done back-to-back promotions, they're a year or 2 years ahead of where they thought they would be. So they're in the promised land, living, their best life. So I think they'll come up and enjoy it. They might spend a bit, but I think unless someone has a massive drop-off from that are the existing Premier League clubs, I'd be amazed if any of the three that come up survive. Purely and simply because I think you look at the job that Nottingham Forest did and will do again. They'll go and invest again. The other side you'd expect to be down around Crystal Palace. I think they could do something this season. I honestly think they could do what Brighton did over a few years ago. If they can keep the bulk of that side together, that new manager, when he got them drilled into the way he wants to play and got players available to him that Hodgson never had. Hodgson never really had Eze and Elise too often in last season where he could play them together. You get those two together in a side and you can build around that. You don't have to go out and spend massive money, but I could definitely see them giving it a year and seeing where they land. I wouldn't be a bit surprised to see them in the top half next season. Wolves could be. I don't know.
Yeah,
the Wolves are one that need to. I think they need to sell a bit. And West Ham, Lopetegui in there. Moyes had an awful lot of control in West Ham, but West Ham have a new sporting director, and you could see last season where you could see the Moyes transfers and you could see the sporting director's transfers. Sporting director goes out and brings in Mohamed Kudus. David Moyes goes and brings in James Ward-Prowse. Now that Moyes is gone and you got Lopetegui in there with a good sporting director who's got a good eye for talent, they'll be interested to see what they do this summer as well. I think everyone looks like they're going to be keeping their powder dry until July. Get to the end of June when there's some clubs have to sell. Some clubs are in a position where they have to get bodies out the door. But I don't think there's going to be those other clubs are going to be, unless the price is absolutely right. I think an awful lot of clubs are going to be keeping their powder dry until the Euros finish, the Copa America finishes, because the last thing you want to do, us included, Liverpool included, if you go out and invest money in a player who goes to an international tournament and hobbles himself, you're so screwed because of the amount of money that you're going to have to spend to get players to come into Liverpool and affect the first 11. You're going to be spending good money.
But there's a delicate flip side, though. There could be something you've got your eye on. There's something you've got your eye on, and we've seen this happen to other clubs. They have good tournaments, price doubles, interest doubles, and you're knackered because they can't get the one. You have to go for a tier below.
Yeah, I get the risk and reward stuff, but when you're knocking around at 65, 70 million pounds now being the new 42 million that we got Jota for, I think that's where you kind of wait.
Yeah, I think those are. I don't think you're getting any 60, 70 million pound players or having that good of a tournament that their value doubles. It might go up 10 or 15, but at that point, you're kind of splitting hairs. But
you could, but we're not renowned for overpaying.
No, we're not.
So we're renowned for walking away, which then means. But again, it's whether you view that person as a transformative signing. If you do, I think they take the risk.
Yeah.
If you don't, then like Kev says, you sit and wait. The other thing we'll see at the start of the season is who gets done for PSR, because I think that's now becoming a factor. Because Everton's been done twice. It's normally a 3-year cycle. It wouldn't surprise if someone like that's done again, especially if saying it's got to be 70% of your turnover.
Eventually, it's going to be 70. I think the starting point. I think for clubs in Europe, by 2026, it's going to be 70%, and that includes player transfers, player wages, manager wages, management payments, agents' fees. Everything to do with the playing side has to come into 70% of your total club income. So, but that's at the moment it's on a gradual scale. I saw a report when this a few months ago. We were looking at this, and Liverpool at the minute are at 68%. So for the new rules when it comes in 2026, we're bang on where we need to be. And you look at by 2026, you look at the players we've got coming through now, that are going to be 12 months, 2 years further on down the line in their development. They're going to save us an absolute fortune so that we can be really surgical about the kind of transfer business that we're doing from then on. So there's other clubs that are going to be in a world of trouble.
Yeah. Well, it's Brian O'Halloran here says it's ominous that Everton are offering Ashley Young a new contract. Obviously, there's nothing there for transfers. The only name I saw linked with Everton was Calvin Phillips from Manchester City, which is like, oh boy, that's got to be a cut rate deal because that was one of the worst loan transfers I've ever seen going.
Yeah, it's just horrendous. He did that to get himself back in the England squad and
nailed it. A lot of the jockeying that players did last season to try to keep themselves in the reckoning for the England squad
didn't really work, did it?
Didn't work out so good. Bonkers LFC here says, think West Ham are getting Leos Guilherme and they're going to look at Lookman. So yeah, that was, I mean, in terms of West Ham, it really feels like when you were talking about West Ham there, Kev, I just want to say, it feels like the Paqueta, it feels like the Paqueta stuff has fucked West Ham up.
That scared the living daylights out of them.
I mean, you're talking 80 to 100 million transfer fee from Man City, and it's gone. And he could be in some serious, like, lifetime ban trouble if some of the stories, prove true. And that's a massive, massive hit for a team like West Ham, because the two names that I've seen from West Ham linked at, both playing in the Brazilian league. Fabricio Bruno, a center half at Flamengo, and Luis Guilherme, a winger from Palmeiras, who's young, 18, 19 years old, something like that. Like, that's a very different market to be shopping in as opposed to even like the Ederson Alvarez.
I don't know. The only thing I know, I listened to Phil Vickery talking about Bruno. He played centre back for Brazil when they beat England at Wembley a couple of months ago when Endrick scored. And by all accounts, he was really good in that game. So that could be a very smart bit of business, because I think West Ham could develop, because they're trying to follow the Leipzig and the Salzburg type of model of attracting those, similar to what Brighton did, but they're trying to do it at a little bit of a higher bar, where they're willing to spend that little bit more in South America to get that little bit of better quality player, to get the higher return on the other side. But if they're getting a guy who's already played for Brazil, a centre-back who's young and he's already played for Brazil at a reasonable fee, it could turn out to be a smart bit of business. And they look like they're on about selling, the Moroccan centre-back that they have, Aguerd, I think his name is.
Aguerd, yeah.
Apparently, I think there's a couple of French clubs looking at him as well, 35 million. So
that's not bad. And then Ashley, I'll throw in one in here. I mean, Chris, in terms talking about bad loan spells, Calvin Phillips looks like a gem compared to Arthur. But Arthur, who
he did well at Fiorentina.
He had a great season at Fiorentina. I saw the semifinal of the Conference League or quarterfinals, and it was like, is that Arthur? And it was like, oh shit, I wonder how much he's played for him. I looked, and it's like, he made like 40 appearances.
I know, yeah. No, he played in the final they lost, didn't he? So yeah, did all right. He might be one of those players that he's not, the English league probably doesn't suit him physically.
It's going to be a mad summer. There's going to be loads of gossip, loads of transfer stuff, loads of transfer noise. But I think, the only thing, keep an eye on the usual suspects. Keep an eye on the ones who tend to put out stuff, and then a week later they're right.
Us.
Then follow that stuff through. Follow that stuff through the summer.
The three of us. The only ITK source you need.
Oh, please don't. Please don't fall for the ITK stuff. Do what I do. Follow ITKs and just watch it, because honestly, the dance is hilarious. It's so funny watching people who tell you one story and in a week it's wrong, and they do the Donald Trump of. They just pretend it never happened.
Yeah. Actually, Archie puts a name in there, and I swear I have not heard a single solitary thing about him
It's the same question that Jason was asking. He says, sorry if this may have already been covered, but what happened with Trinidad, which is Andre Trinidad? We and a few other clubs were linked with him last year.
Know.
I'm telling you right now, mark my words, I'm going to stake my ITK reputation on it. We're going to sign Andre this time for sure. Third window in a row. I'm not entirely sure. I mean, it was the offseason.
Marco Royce is available on a free this summer.
Oh, there you go.
The new Marco Royce. We all know who the new Marco Royce is. It's Shoemany. He's got a link to us every window until he retires. Until he retires. Yeah. He'll never sign for us. He'll just get linked every window.
Hey, speaking of Marco Royce, though, best of luck to him on Saturday.
Well, good way to end your career.
I don't know. I think you either have to be a heartless Madrid fan or an actual Madrid fan to not want to see Borussia Dortmund win that Champions League final.
No, I really want to see Madrid win that now after what I read today. I'll share it with you after.
Oh, boy. Look at that. That's very, very juicy stuff. See, this is the sort of stuff that you get on the members show. So if you're watching us live and you're not a member, I'm looking at you, Avo. €3.99 a month. You get access to the members show. Somebody was asking earlier, I think it was Dan Austin, why they weren't getting alerts for the shows that we did this week. That's because most of the shows that we're going to be doing over the summer are going to be for members only live on YouTube. So if you want to be involved in the live chat on YouTube and watch the show when it happens live, you got to become a member. That's just giving some of the benefits to our members that are paying $3.99 and helping keeping the channel going and stuff like that. So if you're listening on a podcast afterwards, but you like getting involved with the show live, please consider becoming a member because I think there's some really, really good stuff there. And you get some absolutely bonkers stuff like Monday night shows with Phil and apparently last night's show with Ashley and Robbie with Gav, which I haven't had a chance to catch up with yet. So.
Robbie can jump 12 foot in a leotard. This all came out. You missed all this.
Vertically or horizontally?
From two buildings, 12 foot apart, you can do it in a leotard.
Not possible. Unless there's a younger, more athletic basketball playing Robbie that I don't know about.
That was the question. He sat there for ages and went and he goes, yeah, I don't want to be too optimistic. 12 foot. And I went, you can see everyone went, no.
Okay. Just changing the subject now.
Is this
completely. This is non-football.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with football, none whatsoever. Donald Trump guilty on all 34 charges.
Well, it looks like it's time to go read some news there, Kev. What a brilliant way to end a show. I saw that the jury had their verdict just about 5-10 minutes before we went live, and I've got my phone on Do Not Disturb. So what a way to end the show. I mean, if you've been here watching with us again, you know the routine. Give us a like, give us the thumbs up, rate it 5-star if you're listening on a podcast like I do most of the time afterwards. But if you know anything about the show, you know that we love supporting charities. We've got our 2 charities that we're supporting for 2024. Fans supporting food banks in Liverpool, the Lighthouse Cafe in Dublin. We're trying to raise €5,000 for each of these 2. You'll always find the link for the GoFundMe page in the show description on YouTube, in the show description on your podcasting app, wherever you listen to us, or on any of the Talkin Kop social media. We really, really would appreciate it if you can either donate, throw a few dollars at it that way, or just share it amongst your friends and family. You'll also find the link to Phil Casey's Quest 5 for 5. He's also trying to raise €5,000 for the Laura Lynn Children's Hospice in Dublin. These are 3 fantastic charities, and we are just out here talking absolute waffle about rumors that we've read on the internet. But if you can help us out with that, that would always be very appreciated. Any last words before we get out of here, Chris?
Just a plug from me. The women's show went live 6 days ago. So it was me and Emma Sanderson, the Beeb. So we had a good hour's chat about the women finishing 4th, really good season, and just a general big chat about the WSL and, you know, the things that are sort of developing there. So give it a watch. You know, from people, I've had good feedback so far from it, but Emma's really good. She's lots of fantastic insights, you know, and look, you don't get many people from the BBC coming on here, so, you know, you may as well use it.
Yeah, it's that harkens back to the early days of the channel where it was like, I'm sorry, did they have Jonathan Wilson on as a guest for one of the shows? Like, wow, they really took some steps down, ending up with the 3 of us. And Kev, how about you? I imagine you got a few family members over in the States still.
Well, Emmett makes a great point. Let's hope 2024 is the year of guilty verdicts for falsifying business records. #115.
There you go. There you go. We can only hope. It would be lovely if it came down while Guardiola's still there and he has to have some shit on his shoes at some point or another. But
Guardiola to Girona 24-25.
Yeah. Ask his brother how he can afford to own 40% of the club, or don't, either which way. But that has been enough from us. I'm sure we will have way more rumors as the summer goes on because the silly season hasn't even really started yet. I think we did a very good job of not really even talking a whole lot about Liverpool tonight. So very well done from everybody there. Yeah, very well done from everybody there. We drew the short straw on getting the non-Liverpool show. So much easier to talk about Liverpool. But thank you very much to Kev O'Sullivan. Thank you very much to Chris Brack. I did that backwards because everything's mirrored on the stupid internet. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. We'll see you when we see you, whenever that will be. Adios.